Hello and welcome to this week's vlog. We are back in the forest following one of many creeks to capture old growth in Tasmania's Southwest National Park. And in this episode I'm going to be talking you through my thought process of capturing ideal water flow in difficult lighting conditions. So thanks for joining me on this mini adventure, and I hope you learned something in the process.
It's hard work doing this. No, it's not hard work. It's awesome work and I love it. But I wonder how much further I'll go because, at some point it gets unreasonable. I don't want to have to make my way back out of this in the dark. And it is just tough at times because, look at stuff like this and you can't really get through anywhere. There's fallen over trees, dodgy footing, left, right and center. So, tread with caution. It's all worth it as long as I'm careful enough. But yeah, let's keep going this way. So I've made my way up this river now for a couple of hours, constantly on the lookout for elements that catch the eye that I could build into a composition. And the benefit of these rainforest rivers is there's always cascades along the way, and then it's a question of, is the cascade interesting and does it fit into a nicer, wider scene? Is there an element around it that supports it? I've now come across something just like this, where we have a really nice cascade, and just about, we can use the rocks here in the foreground to, create something of interest, to just draw your eye into the scene. Got the cascade there, and then above the cascade is this sassafras, which is moss covered and just looks gnarly and amazing. And in addition to all of these elements is we've got a big fat tree fern sitting over here on the right, and beautifully enough, light all the way out there in the background. That's how I feel like this scene fits together nicely. Each sort of edge of the frame and corner of the frame fulfills a specific element. I set my aperture to determine the sharpest image I can create. And then from here, because we've got motion in the scene, now it's all about figuring out what the shutter speed is supposed to be. So if I'm going with, let's say, F10, just to get a nice little middle ground, this is fairly underexposed right now. Let's look at the histogram. Yeah, we want to push this up, but it's already at 1 second. So now I'm going up to 2 seconds, still not touching the right side of the histogram. 3.2 seconds. That is obviously far too long a shutter to get nice texture in the water. So what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to ramp my ISO up to 200, completely manageable. Means I can, I've now doubled my ISO, which means I can half my shutter speed. 1.6, still pretty long. So what we're going to be doing is, we're going to shoot this for the non-moving elements in the scene, the rocks, the tree, at 1.3 seconds. And then we're going to capture another exposure, or a couple more, where we lower the aperture a bit, ramp the ISO a little more, and then be able to get the shutter speed down a bit more. So we'll open up the aperture, we'll pump the ISO, and therefore are able to shorten our shutter speed. So let's start with that. We'll get the non-moving elements first, and we'll have to focus stack this because we're so close to the foreground. So now first the one for the background. And now we'll do the one for the foreground. There we go, yep, that was out of focus, so. 2 shots here are completely sufficient. Although, you know what, it's just a mid-ground, just to play it safe. I'd rather have everything now, rather than later realize I was missing a plane of focus somewhere halfway into the scene. Now, this is the point where we start covering our shutter speed to get the nice flow texture that we're trying to achieve. Let's go down to F6.3 and give ourselves 1/3 of a second. Now we've got to very carefully again focus stack this, because obviously the depth of field is now much more shallow. And here we go. That's ideal. Get another one for the foreground, just to play it safe. What we can do now is have a look at the previous one and zoom in to see, yeah, beautiful. I hope that's visible. You get lovely texture, which just means we have detail that we can work with. And just for good measure, I'm going to go all the way in the background and make sure we have the ferns without any motion as well. Bam. So this is really all I needed to do. Get those shots, focus stack my foreground to my background, and make sure that my flow is at the right shutter speed. And if I like how this turned out, here it is.
So with daylight hours in mind, I made my way back down the creek since I really wasn't too keen to navigate this forest after dark. But what's great about backtracking environments such as this one anyway is that even though you're not making your way through a new area, you're experiencing the same place from a different perspective. And this in turn means you're likely to stumble upon compositions you didn't see while walking the other direction early in the day. With this one I took the same approach as earlier, capture the static elements first, then shoot for the water at the desired shutter speed. And here's how this photograph turned out. And here's one more I came across on the way back to the car. And that brings us to the end of this vlog. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you learned something in the process. If you did, consider liking the video or maybe even subscribing to my channel. I have big plans for upcoming videos and would love to share those with you. Until then, all the best. Bye.